Hi, everyone. This is Will, and welcome to webinar number 5. We've been getting your feedback, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm getting your feedback as well. So today's webinar is only 6 slides long, and it really focuses on one thing and a team assignment for all of you to work on. The feedback that we've gotten are really focused on how much value you have for meeting with each other and supporting each other, and I want to emphasize that today. And it's really an important part of the culture change. The other thing is some people feel like, although the content is good, it sometimes doesn't seem like maybe it applies to you, um, and to others it applies perfectly in whatever your situation is. And part of it is some more that I can do. I can make it more applicable and try to make that clear. And then some of it is just you thinking about, well, how can I apply this? Because although there are people with leadership and supervisory responsibilities as part of the team, and then many of you are subject matter experts and individual professionals, all of these tools are to help increase your impact, your influence, and the quality of your work. So be helpful to think about it in those contexts, and I'll do a better job of really linking this to your daily work. So let's get into this. And this is really about the culture change that we really started in legal, and we're trying to spread to other parts of the organization. And the core of that culture change is creating a culture that is adult to adult. In other words, where we treat each of us like adults. All hierarchical organizations are basically parent-child types of cultures where people at the top have authority and tell us what to do because they know what to do. But in our world today, there's no way that one person can really know everything that needs to be done or the best way to go about it, or what we don't really even need to be doing anymore. And so it really takes a giant culture of teamwork, of people who treat each other like adults. So we call that a smart growth culture or a pro-growth culture. And it rests on these two pillars of self-empowerment and respectful accountability. And in the middle is you, and you is represented by the term Me Inc., and Me Inc. represents your career. Your career right now is at Delta, and maybe it'll stay at Delta until you retire. I know there's a lot of long-term employees, but it's healthiest for you to look at your uh, professional life as something that you own, you're responsible for. And when the culture is really working, you treat everybody with so much respect. I call it like treating everybody like they're a genius. So if you were told when you were going to meet somebody that the person you're going to meet is incredibly competent at what their level of expertise is, or they're distinguished or a thought leader, well, the level of respect that you'd offer that person and interest that you would have in what they say would be extreme, acute. And if you can create a culture where people bring that to each other in the workplace, you're going to have a culture that everybody likes to work in. I'm going to go to the next slide and show you why that's important. As you know, I've been doing this for decades, that is helping change culture. And one of the things is when I go into companies that are really struggling, one of the comments I get is, oh, these people just treat each other really badly and they backbite and they blame, and they're really cantankerous and difficult to work with. And so I often say, well, gosh, did you recruit those kind of people on purpose? I mean, you recruit some really angry, cantankerous people, or did you recruit the very best people you could? And when you recruited them, did you feel like you had a lot of synergy and positive energy and so forth? And obviously they respond that no, we try to recruit great people. And what I have found in organizations is virtually all organizations are filled with the same kinds of people. Most of us try to, most organizations try to really do a great job in recruiting likable people who are high achievers. And what I have found, and what there's plenty of evidence to support, is that when people are successful, they're on their best behavior. And when people are not successful and work is frustrating, then it brings out the worst in us. So when I go into a culture that's really struggling, what we see is that there's 10% of people who are obviously uh, extraordinary. And they're doing great and they feel great and they're proactive and they kind of carry their weather with them. And that's just true in the mass culture. There's 10% of people who are going to be positive no matter what their circumstances are. Then there's a percentage of people who are just toxic and they're going to be kind of nasty no matter how good the circumstances are. It doesn't have to be as high as 20%, but when you're in an organization that is having a difficult time achieving its goals, that's when you begin to see that part of it grow. Now, Delta isn't in that situation. You're in a situation where you're meeting your overall goals, but because the organization is more bureaucratic than it should be, there's some frustration in the middle, and that creates bad behavior. And what that bad behavior looks like is personal confusion, acting on self-interest, not taking action, not following up, fire drills, last minute fixes, missing goals, blaming others, so forth. I'm not saying that that describes the culture of the organization, but you find pockets of that. And that's the thing that we're trying to change. Now, you find that what I call winning behavior is just basically when you have people that are setting goals and achieving them together through teamwork, everybody's good behavior is magnified. Like we all know how to be nice and listen and be collaborative and be supportive. We know how to do that. We don't need to go to a training class to learn how to do that. We know how to do that. So it's being intentional about being that way. And one of the things that really creates that is a feeling of people helping each other. In other words, great teamwork. And you'll see that, again, this is data-based, that when you get a great place to work, 20% of the people, not 10%, 20% of the people who are behaving in a great way and they're creating unique value and they're innovating and they're creating game-changing results. And what you see in the organization is people focused on the things that really matter most. You see a lot of creativity and appreciation for that creativity. You see that creativity turn into innovation. You see really easy collaboration where people want to talk to each other and be influenced by each other. You see high initiative or proactivity and people learning and learning together. And then what you see is a real shrinkage of people who are behaving badly. So what this really comes down to is, do we have goal clarity and are we committed to help each other? So last couple of slides just really deal with a mindset to create this. And this is research done by friends of mine who have a company called Partners in Leadership. And what they have found is that when people are having a difficult time achieving their goals, um, they often are swimming below the waterline. And when you swim below the waterline, you basically lose your initiative. So some of these behaviors are you're just waiting for more instructions. You're waiting for somebody to tell you what to do. Or you're even hiding out. You're trying to avoid work. And then there's a great psychologist, Daniel Goleman, who really coined the term emotional intelligence. And he wrote a book that says that there are three things that human beings are great at, they're instinctual at. And one is denial, the other is blame, and the third one is rationalizing. And often these happen kind of in a sequence. So first we deny there's a problem. Then we blame other people for the problem. Then we rationalize that the problem doesn't make any difference. So let's suppose that I had a child, a teenager, who just wasn't completing his homework assignments. And I just kept saying, oh, he's a good kid, he's a good kid. But I was getting notes from the teachers, he's a good kid, he's just going through a phase. So that'd be denial. And then let's suppose that he got to the point where he's actually flunking a class. And then I decided, well, I'm going to blame the teachers. The teachers are screwy and the assignments are all wrong. Who would want to do this anyway? And then I rationalized, well, I guess he can go to summer school or whatever. He has to live with the consequences. So when you start off on any problem with denying there's a problem and then blaming others, you're on the way to acceptance. And acceptance is not a good way to accept a bad status quo. So those are all behaviors that you see of people below the waterline. Now, above the waterline, you see the word self-empowered. And what that means is these are the five behaviors of smart power: the what, why, how, do, and prove. And it really takes on greater power when you do these things together. So it's called seeing it together, owning it together, solving it together, doing it together, improving it together. And we get a whole organization that are focused on those five things in a way that is really constructive and is helping you accelerate your momentum toward your goals. Boy, it's a great culture, and it really attracts and retains talent. So this is what I'd like you to do. I know that many of you expressed real excitement or at least satisfaction in being on a team and working in these little team meetings. And so what I'd like you to do is just practice together. Now, what's great about this is most of you don't work in the same area. You don't maybe naturally rely on one another. And I just want to show you how this works even when you're not uh, working together on a project. So this is your assignment. So I want you to do it in your team of threes. And it says write it down. It means write down all three things because writing makes it real. So I'd like you to come up with something that could be improved that impacts the quality of your work. In other words, what's something that you need or something that you could quit doing that would really make you more effective? And I just want you to write it down, and then I want you to tell your partners what that is, your co-team members. That's called seeing it together. Now, I want you as a team to own it together. So the question is, if you were to help each other, what help can you offer? So when I've done this with other groups, often somebody says, "Well, I know somebody who could help you," in usually in the company, sometimes outside the company, or "I've got some advice I could give you because I was in your situation before." So you don't have to make this dramatic, but you're just owning together. Now you have stake in each other's success. And then number three, and this is the highest, are you willing to actually do something to help your colleague or teammate here? So it could be a form of support. It could be just asking them to report, to try something and report back to you. Or it could be that you're going to talk to somebody else or help them develop a pitch for something to get what they need or to eliminate some wasted action that they have. But what happens to cultures where people are actively helping each other, especially across boundaries, especially when there's nothing in it for you except the feeling of what it is to help another person? That's when you really create the magic. So right here in your team, I'd like you to think about um, creating that magic. And then as you look around with your other teammates next week, I'd like you to think about how you can create this same magic with them. This is all about getting above the waterline. Wouldn't it be great to work in a place where everybody was helping everybody else succeed? Of course it would. I look forward to seeing you next time.